Hello everybody, thank you for joining. I'm Astrid Alben from London and I'm going to be sharing some of my poems with you at the Vale Life. I'll be reading poems from my new poetry collection, Plainspeak, and in collaboration with the musician John Mambo, I'll also be performing poems from my first collection, Pianissimo. So John, in one of our telephone conversations, you said that when I send you a sound file, you don't always listen so much or immediately to a linear narrative in the poem, but you connect with the words and the mood of the poem as a whole, and that's where you start to create the music that begins a new story or a new narrative with the poem. So I've got one for you because I thought you might need some cheering up because you've been so busy. So I've got this very kind of playful poem that I'm sending you as this in this sound file, and and I'm also going to try to read it in a way that takes the music out of it, and so I'm going to leave the music to you, and it's called I Pianissimo, and which I think goes really well with your sound. Okay, here we go. I Pianissimo. I Pianissimo. Trees are loose pages. Shadows, a signal failure. Pianissimo. Your legs are a tuning fork. I. The corner is a question mark. A question mark? A question mark. The moon is a bum, 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 bouncing ball. Aye! Night has long tassels. Pianissimo. Hope is a constellation. Aye! The trees are turning. Pianissimo. The wind is in your pocket. Pianissimo. Desire is a piece of string. Aye! Your fingers are shingle. Aye! There you go, in your favourite frock. Parakeet! Pianissimo. I'm going to read two poems from Plainspeak, and then we're going to switch over to John Mambo, who I've been collaborating with. So the first poem I'm going to read is called Plainspeak. It's the first poem in the book. Plainspeak. Just before dawn, stars pause above us. Space is photogenic. Oxygen, uranium and gold, poet, is what we are made of. One life is not enough to run, breathe, run, poet, run across the autobahn orbiting Earth. No need for pausing for cameras. Blaze a trail grinning from me to yours. Burst open. Speak. Plainspeak. Oh, poet. I love you, poet. If no one else will love you, poet. Without you, I am shadowless, the naked part of canvas. And this is the last poem in the book. I won't if you don't. At -3 minutes to my first breath, when love was the black and white noise of my mother's womb, poet died peacefully in my sleep at 52 in a room on Elms Avenue. At 83, poet died, cradling my balls in a tepid bath on a morning that lasted 100 years. At 20, poet died with the precision of the Seoul Ryu Kyong-Su 105 Guards Tank Division. Like an arsonist stoking his chronic ashes, poet charred and died, clearing through boxes. In the loft, I found a note. Don't die. I won't, if you don't.
Hello, I'm John, and I've been collaborating with Astrid for a couple of months now. We live a couple of 100 miles apart, so it's not very easy for us to collaborate directly. We wanted to do something as live as possible. We tried using the usual internet video applications, but that didn't work very well, so we've come up with a slightly different solution. We really did want to keep this as live as possible, so if we were doing it on stage, it would be freely improvised, I would imagine. So what happens is Astrid reads a poem, records it, sends it to me. I listen to it a couple of times. I don't delve too much into the meaning. I certainly don't get too familiar with it, and then I'll just play along with it and record it. And the idea is that you do it in the first take. You do one take, and you try not to make too many mistakes because there's no editing afterwards. So that's about as live as you can get. I don't usually know what I'm going to be playing at all, but just before I press the record button, I will probably have an image in my head, or perhaps Astrid will give me a hint, a sentence, a description, or I might pick up a little bit of meaning in the poem, but I try not to get too deep into it, so it's as spontaneous as possible. And I really do enjoy that process of not having a clue what you're about to do. It's as near to doing a gig as possible, but it's not scary because you can just delete it if you really want to. But yeah, these are all done in one take. So that's it really. Over to you, Astrid.
John, hi. I'm going to try and usually when I read, I'm very aware of the words that I'm reading, and working like this, what has really shifted for me is that I'm no longer listening so much to the words that I'm reading, but I'm listening to the silence, because that's where I am going to find you, in those silences. And neither of us has heard the ocean for a while. Both of us live in landlocked areas. So this is a bit of the ocean. And the title of the poem is Lo Eclair, which is from a Maurice Maeterlinck libretto, Pallias and Millicent, which was set to music by Claude Debussy. And he happens to be a composer whose work I admire very, very much. So here we go. Oh, Lo Eclair. The seabed shifts and trills. How water musics. Washed up shells are chanting runes. They wriggle with their toes. They somersault underwater. They jawoosh. An arm. Jawoosh. Jawoosh. They belly up and belly down. Their bodies are marigolds. They are dunes. They drop on the beach and let the water take them. What if a whale were to wash up here right now? They stare out. They stare out. They stare out at sea. Lose the shore. Lift their eyes. They squint. Do you believe aliens exist out there? Suppose they don't live on other planets. Suppose they migrate like whales in pods. Through oceans and oceans of space. They find two baubles on an elastic band. They hunt for perfect shells, for conscious whelks. She has blue nail varnish on each toe, and all day boats float over the long horizon. The patch where they sat, taken by the incoming tide, and Orange Horser looked at. Once more, dissolves into the yarn of sand.
So, John, one of the ways in which we started working was actually through Skype. And when we started experimenting, me reading the poems and you on guitar, we couldn't figure out why it wasn't working in the way that we thought it would be working, or why I thought I was hearing different things to what you were hearing and vice versa. And we kind of had to figure out what was going on. And in the end, you called me up and you said, get on your Skype. And so we met and talked, and he said, okay, now clap every time I clap. And so you would clap and I would clap, and my clap would just come a little bit after your clap. And there was this strange time delay that kind of messed up all our plans of performing together, and we had to rethink how we were going to work together. And so one way is that I'm now sending you these messages, and you respond with your music. And this poem, which is called Paul Celan, Act 4, Scene 3, I picked it because Paul Celan really tried in his life to find in language something that approximated a perfect circle. And I think it had to do with the process of dealing with the immense grief of the Second World War. And I'm not trying to compare in any way war or the Second World War or any war with this pandemic, not at all. But this idea of being in search of new circles as we try and find new people to collaborate and new ways to make work and make the work like a circle works, made me think that, I've got to include this poem. And so it's Paul Celan, Act 4, Scene 3. And this is a quote from Celan. I raise myself and watch my hand as it draws the one single circle. Circling it. First, with one. One finger, circling it first with one finger, then your wrist, an arm, the entire body. Chronicle waiting, keep a score of it. What am I? Meat? What am I? What am I? What am I? Stone. Nothing. Noting a circle, a score, a number to pick. Pick. Slice up the words. Slice up stone. Eat. Grass. Weigh. Every word in grass. Eat grass. Weigh. Eat grass. Weigh. Eat. Weigh. Eat grass. Weigh. Every word. Eat grass. Weigh. Every word in grass. Settle the score. Settle the score in stone. Crouch in the middle of O. Oh. A Napoleonic space sealed off. From introspection. The highest note, highest, highest note, the highest note being the one for waiting in. Thank you, John.
3.
I've had an alter ego from a very young age, and he lurks in my earlier poems, and I clearly trying to suppress him in the work or keep him out. But in this book, in Plainspeak, I decided I was going to give him free rein, and this is the poem that introduces my alter ego poet to the collection, and it's called Radio Mast. So I'm going to read Radio Mast, and I'm going to read another poem from Plainspeak, and then we're going to switch back to John. So Radio Mast. How come sea turtles travel alone? Like satellites, they have faithfully shouldered their own frequency for 100 million years. Today is Sunday. Today is the boy I never got to be. He stands before the radio mast. No, he booms, pushes out his ribs a woofer. Look, no, me. Face, hands, toes cling to the edge of dawn. Point south of the border, west of the sun. In GMT, a night watchman tunes his radio, listens to the of the ocean, believes a sea turtle has just checked into the Galaxy Hotel. And the next one I'm going to read is called Vodka and Lime, and it's very loosely based on, I boarded a plane 15 years ago, and one of the engines blew up. And since then I have a fear of flying. Everyone made it off the plane okay. It happened on the runway, so everyone was safe. But it was quite spectacular. The engine completely kind of took itself into the air, but thankfully left us behind on the ground. So this is called Vodka and Lime. High up in atmosphere, vertigo, intact inside vodka and lime, stashed life jacket under front seat, checked foot underneath me spins planet Earth. Oil rigs, tankers, pleasure craft. That accident in 1995 resulted in my crooked smile, thin strip of coast. Estuaries. Oh, see those Lego-licious houses. If I had a big house big enough to fit, I'd have to leave because there'd be no room for me. I could easily fly like this a long, long time, but the captain won't tell. He won't tell, I yell, where my wings are.
Okay, hello again. So the next collaborative event for your delectation and delight is one of Astrid's own compositions. I improvised the bass along with this, and it's called The Other Country. The Other Country.
The other country. B spoke to me, telling me he sees clouds drift in a carton of milk.
evening light, he says, is a flock of birds skimming the rooftops westerly. The sky disappeared that night, and in its stead a permanent clamp bank squats on rooftops. In this cloud bank, small luminescent baubles hover, which I guess, B continues, used to be streetlights. The light sprains his shadow, dispersing me, B says, running clear out from underneath me. Across the border, the river flows through the rain. Yellow comes after mustard seed. Every leaf is a slipper. Flopping on summer. Across the border, telephone wires are caught in the antlers of the open road. It is where "Why did you leave?" means "Why did you come back?" Across the border, one foot easily forgets the other. But that's neither here nor there. It isn't one thing or the other. Remember, B says, the border is just a line. But what he really wants to tell me is that across the border, I want to speak to everybody. And most of all, yes, most of all, I want to speak to you. Because everywhere, B persists, picking up the carton of milk and raising it to his lips. Everywhere he went that night, I watched babies being born, their fists tightly balled, but in death, B says, wiping the corners of his mouth. In death, B says, wiping the corners of his mouth. In death, B says, our hands are open. Music and poetry share this idea of meter, of rhythm, of beat, and both poetry and music have it. And what really interests me in the poetry is how syntax relates to that, because syntax is what gives language its meaning. It's how we put words together. And I'm interested in really extending that and experimenting with that and stretching it in all kinds of different directions to create the most possibility of what a poem can be. And so I'm astutely aware that this is something on the page, but that it also has a kind of three-dimensional live when it's read out, or even in the mind, a poem can become an installation, depending on how, in the way that it's the language allows it to be invoked. So I'm going to read two more poems that play with that idea of how language kind of continually transforms itself through rhythm and meter and through through syntax, and that will be it. And they both of the poems are from Plainspeak. So the first one is called Putting It Back Together. Outside the wind overturns a bin, plastic forks, orange tinted paper, God's gift to advertising, Godzilla with an amputated tail, empty bag, translucent, waiting skin, a stranger's lip torn apart while Best Begin Again plays. I found that book under chicken scraps, pages flutter, drunk, bird-like. It can be roses, what's mine, shadows on a hot day in April, a hotel room booked for the night and putting it all back together. That is. And this is Fugue for Wittgenstein. And maybe I'll thank everyone before. Yes, so let me just, I want to thank John. It's just been such a privilege to collaborate and experiment with you in this way. And thank you for Vale Live for having me. And thank you everyone for listening. So thank you. Okay, this is Fugue for Wittgenstein. The sound of someone who left the room as people pass each other in Moscow corridors, muttering, "Da, but whose shadow? A planet orbiting without a universe, the astronaut who never makes it through the atmosphere. Loneliness, deliberate and slow. Love and desire that never happened, the hardest to let go. Like Marlon Brando mumbling through the best film ever made, when there are no questions left, this itself is the answer." That's it. Thank you so much for having me. And I hope you can order my book through Prototype Publishers and Pianissimo through ARC Publications. And again, thank you very much for having me. All right, look after yourself, everyone. Bye-bye.